Hi everyone, Tom Vogel, Wrestling's Finest PC Game. Tonight's video is going to be an in-depth analysis or kind of an explanation too of the ratings for wrestlers within Wrestling's Finest. Wrestling's Finest is a very detailed hold-by-hold pro wrestling game where the strengths and weaknesses of each wrestler will come into play in their matches. The matchup between wrestlers is very, very important because the strengths and weaknesses of each one, sometimes your strengths aren't a strength when we're going against a certain wrestler and vice versa. So tonight what I thought I would do is take us through here a little look at each wrestlers that I've selected here, Abdullah Butcher and CM Punk, and show you a little bit about kind of what makes their ratings up, and hopefully kind of show you the great detail that Wrestling's Finest has, and it definitely starts with the wrestler ratings. We're very happy with our game engine, but game engine really doesn't mean anything if your ratings are not accurate and realistic. All wrestlers in Wrestling's Finest are rated at the prime of their career. However, we do ratings for some wrestlers that were, say, like early in their career. In fact, Abdullah has another rating that's for his early part of his career. So the reason we do that is if you wanted to do, say, a old LA replay, you could actually use a early Roddy Piper rating. He wasn't very good, but you know, he was a big star in LA, and it would be unrealistic to use his prime rating if you were doing an LA replay. So that's kind of how we do it. So anyway, what I did was I wanted to pick two wrestlers. Some of the younger fans may not know who Abdullah the Butcher is. That's why Google is your friend. Abdullah was the madman from Sudan. He foreign objects everywhere. Used forks, knives, not like, you know, cutting knives, but, you know, to carve up your forehead. Used screwdrivers. In real life, Abdullah actually, I believe his first name was Larry, actually owned a Chinese barbecue restaurant in Atlanta. So, but anyway, Abdullah would come into the area for very short periods of time, kind of sometimes as a bounty hunter, usually just some madman that would come in. I don't believe he ever did interviews, unless he did them in his real early career, but from when I started watching him in the late 70s, he never spoke. So I selected him, and then I also selected CM Punk, who hasn't wrestled probably in the WWF now for 3 or 4 years, but had a real good career, and I was a big fan of his. So what we're going to do is I called both wrestlers up, and we're not really going to run a match. We're just going to walk you through some of the ratings. So Abdullah here, and all you have to do whenever you want to look at the wrestler's card is just basically click his name, and you'll see in the middle here his card comes up. The Madman from Sudan's his nickname, and you'll see here's kind of the main body of his card. This dictates a lot of the action within the game engine. You'll see a control rating, defense, stamina, pin, submit, wisdom, successful hold, auto control loss, fan interaction, cut rating, an injury rating, and then a tag team rating. The tag team rating on the singles card is kind of pointless only because they're rated as tag teams. So the tag team rating, when we first did the game, we gave everybody a tag team rating, but it's no longer used, and at some point maybe I'll find another rating I can do, because I do have those two numbers available. So when you look at everything, control rating, the average is probably a 14. There are several guys that are 15, a few 16s. I believe Abdullah might have the highest control rating. Basically, you compare the two wrestlers' ratings, you take the difference, and then you add it to 20. And I believe, I'll show you CM Punk in a little bit, I believe his control rating's a 14. So since the difference is 3, every time you go back to what we call original control, Abdullah would be in control from 1 to 23. and CM Punk would be 24-40. So this is actually a big difference when you have a 17-14. Like I said, I believe Abdullah is only 17 in the game. Defense, you have anywhere from a 0 to a -3. Abdullah gets a -1 mainly because he's such a lunatic and he's kind of a big fella, so it just naturally helps him. Stamina, your first rating, excuse me, can range from, I want to say like the low to mid 50s all the way up. We'll throw out the pioneers, but all the way up to like the mid 80s. Somebody like Ric Flair's an 85. You'll see here that Abdullah's a 59, which isn't very good, but even worse is his second stamina rating. His is a 6. Everybody in the game, other than the jobbers or prelim wrestlers, have either a 4, 5, or 6. The lower, the better. We go to the pin rating, 29, 29, 2. Each of those numbers is based out of 40. So anytime Abdullah is being pinned, when CM's trying to pin him, you have a 29 out of 40 chance to get a 1 count, and then a 29 out of 40 to get a 2, and then only a 2 out of 40 to get a 3. Same with the submission numbers. What does happen, though, every time Abdullah reaches a stamina level, and when that 59 becomes 0, and then every subsequent time that it happens, his first 2 pin ratings and his first 2 submission ratings will go up by 6. Then once those numbers are over 40, they'll carry over to the third number. So Abdullah is just terrible stamina, which indicates he will not typically have very long matches. The wisdom rating, the first number is called the strategy cards, or as my brother likes to call them, the luck cards. Every wrestler gets so many cards to start the match. I believe there's 10 or 11 different types of strategy cards, and you get anywhere from 3, I believe, or maybe it's 4, all the way up to 7. The higher the better. Abdullah gets 4, which isn't the greatest, but then Abdullah wasn't known to be a real tactician in the ring. Second wisdom rating, that's if he gets pinned or submits. What chance does he have getting to the ropes? That's based out of 100. There are some guys that have a minus rating. Other guys like Harley Race, Ric Flair are in the high teens, low 20s. Let's move down to successful holds. That's based on, it's the most you can be is a 00 to 75, and the lowest I believe is a 69 or a 68. So Abdullah's not very good there. Auto control loss 75 to 88. Everybody starts at a 75 or 76, depending on where your successful hold is, and it can go anywhere from an 85 up to a 90. Abdullah is so-so in this. The second rating, you'll see there a 5. That's based on out of 5, and that's an experience rating and an ability to force your opponent into making mistakes. That 5 actually adjusts CM Punk's rating a little bit. I'll show you that later. The next rating, the fan interaction, it's a 95. Without a star behind the number or next to the number, it means he's a heel. Sometimes the fans can affect him, and sometimes he can use it to his advantage. The really, really good heels only have one number, like a 95. So Abdullah feeds off the heat he gets from the fans, and it's not actually a bad thing. Cut rating, Abdullah bled just about every match. He gets the maximum rating of 10, which means how frequently he'll get cut. And then his injury rating's a 1, meaning he'll rarely, if ever, get injured. So that's kind of sets the stage here. Next, we're going to go into control, and you'll see. I'm going to show you the middle part from hammering down to outside ring. You'll notice it starts at 00 and it goes all the way to 99. So 100 numbers. I'll come back to the hammering in just a second, but you'll see Abdullah has a 60 for headlock, 61 to 68 for kicks. And you can just kind of follow the card down. You'll notice he has no pin holds and only 1 submission. What's very interesting on Abdullah's card, I believe him and the Sheik, I believe, have the highest DQ rating, 80 to 90. And then his outside ring is one of the highest, if not the highest, 91 to 99. Now, if he has a DQ come up, between the 80 and the 90. There is there's two other checks. It's called the DQ range, which is based out of 40, and he has a very high rating. Most guys will have a lower rating for the second rating, meaning they're going to be a little bit more careful if they're challenging for a title because they don't want to get DQ'd. Abdullah, doesn't matter. Same with outside ring, 34 out of 34, or 34 and then 34 no matter when he wrestles. I believe that is the highest in the game. That's out of 40. So if Abdullah turns, say, a 95, it's outside ring, and then you also check one of the fast action cards, and if the number's from 1 to 34 out of 40, Abdullah will get an attempt an outside the ring move, and when he goes to the chart, you'll use his 10 rating, which is as high as it can be. Next I want to talk about is the hammering. You'll see Abdullah's is 00 to 59 with a 19 in, next to the 59. This means if the move is 00 to 19, it's considered a hammering move, and it's a legal hammering. If the number's 20 to 59, it's considered illegal. So as you can tell, the majority of Abdullah's moves are going to be illegal. So let's just look at what his legal holds are. And this is kind of the beauty of a wrestler card. It kind of gives you a feel how the wrestler performs, what his tendencies are, and it gives each wrestler a true feel. So let's click on his legal holds. Abdullah only has one arm hold, one throw drags. That'd be like a hip toss, arm drag. Leg holds, he only has a 3, but you'll notice his nerve holds are 4 to 8. And again, everything, by the way, is based on 1 to 40 for this. So Abdullah likes to use the nerve holds, doesn't really do many neck holds, likes to whip his opponent into the ropes, likes to use the headbutt, has a 3 chop numbers, 2 power moves, a forearm, loves the elbow, 30 to 33, knee smash just has 1 number, and then 2 for the leg drop. Specialty moves I'll talk about later, they're 37 to 40, which it's pretty good. So the other thing I want to point out here is you'll see for each one of these holds there's a stamina off amount, and you'll see here with Abdullah, his 2 best stamina moves would be 7 off here for the whip into ropes and 7 off for the elbow smash. We also have a control rating for each hold. You'll see, and this is based on 1 to 40. 35 is actually kind of low for these moves. You'll see some wrestlers will have a lot of 36s and 37s, meaning they maintain control. You'll see here, though, nerve holds are a 37, whip into ropes are a 37, elbow smash is a 36. These are very good numbers other than the top 3, but you'll see they won't come up very often. Then we have his counter. His counter to an arm hold is a 3, which is very important because prior to the match, each wrestler can trade up to 3 holds for another hold. There are some limitations, but a 3 is not very good. So if CM Punk is fighting Abdullah, there's a good chance he's going to trade out of some moves, and he'll probably consider switching to an arm hold or definitely a speed move because Abdullah's counter is only 1 out of 40. So this is how you're going to wear this big guy down. The speed moves mainly, and then also some arm holds. You'll see throws and drags is 15, whip ropes is 19, power moves are 20. That tells a person that due to Abdullah's size and girth, he's going to counter those moves a lot. So, might be moves you consider trading out of. The headbutt, 37, means it's going to be very hard to headbutt Abdullah the Butcher. He has a very hard head. Your final column is attempted pin numbers. If he uses a whip into ropes and the number is a 16, then he'd get to try to pin his opponent. If it's 10 to 15, he would not. Headbutts 23, chops 26, elbow smash 33, and leg drop 36. So let's look at his illegal, because remember, his illegal holds are going to be 20 to 59. Again, not a lot on the hair pull face rake or eye gouge, but you'll see he has 10 numbers for choking, 4 numbers for biting, which I believe is the highest in the game, turnbuckle, couple, throat chops. Abdullah loved to use the pointed fingers and just go up and just jab his opponent hard in the throat. Low blow, he has 3 numbers for that, which is kind of high. And what's interesting with Abdullah, he only has 5 punch numbers. Most wrestlers are going to have at least 10. Some can have up to close to 15. But since Abdullah likes to choke, bite, and throat chop, he's not going to have a lot of punches. You'll look here, the stamina off for each hold. Again, choking, throat chops, low blow are going to be the best. And then the counters. Look at all the high numbers, 36s, 37s. If he does these moves, illegal moves, very good chance he's going to stay in control. Now here his counters are. You'll notice Abdullah in his picture, bald guy. That means his counter to a hair pull is 40 out of 40. Some people would say, well, wouldn't you always want to trade out of that? Not necessarily. It kind of depends how many hair pull chances his opponent has. Let's say his opponent only has 1, just like Abdullah does. You probably wouldn't want to trade out of that because there's other holds you would want to trade out of that occur with a great more frequency. And actually the game will give you hints at the start of the match which moves you should consider trading out of and which moves you should trade him to. But anyway, you'll see his counters. Not very good for face rake or eye gouge. Choke, it's harder because he has a bigger neck. Biting, I think he kind of liked to get bit. Turnbuckle, again, hard head, not quite as big of effect, and you got a 4-4-5. And then once again, here your attempted pin numbers are for each of these moves. So that completes our illegal holds. I want you to keep in mind this 37 to 40. You'll notice that's both legal and illegal. So let's go back to our control. Over here, let's do the hammering. This 17 minus 2 is very, very important. This is what's called his auto control rating. Following a successful hold, if Abdullah, the first number is a 17 and that's out of 40. And let's just say CM Punk's second rating is a 0. That means if Abdullah turns a 1 to 17, he's in such dominant control that he stays automatically in control. And that's very important because if, let's say Abdullah does a throat chop, which is controls a 37, if it's 1 to 17, the control check after that hold, he stays in automatic control. And basically all you do is you turn 2 cards and you go to the 00 to 99 and you determine what hold he's going to attempt to apply. If that control number is 18 to 37, Abdullah has to go through this whole step here. If it's 00 to 69 is a successful hold, 75 to 88 auto control loss, 95 fan interaction. If it doesn't fall in one of these 3 numbers, then we have to go back to original control. So you always want to stay in control, but if you can do that auto control, you avoid all this check here. And this is not a good check for Abdullah because his successful holds are so low. So this auto control is a very important factor. Most wrestlers, I think it ranges from like 16 to 20, and the second number ranges from 0 to -3. Abdullah's a -2, which is good, meaning he doesn't allow his opponent to keep that auto control as much because it would get reduced. I'm going to quickly go, here's the headlock, kicks all the way down. You'll see the control ratings for all these holds like I showed you for hammering. You'll notice they're not as high as the hammering holds, and the reason is most of these holds, other than a headlock and I guess a kick, when a wrestler body slams or suplex somebody, he's kind of relinquishing control of controlling the body because he throws them and he no longer typically has contact with them. When you lock an arm hold on or a leg hold or you hit somebody in the throat, you're kind of maintaining physical contact with him. So that's why these control numbers are just a little lower. You'll see the attempted pins. like for a body slam, if the pin attempt number is 22 to 40, then he'll get to try to pin the guy. Otherwise, there's no pin attempt. Here's the stamina off. Every time he does a move, that amount is taken off CM Punk's rating. Down here I'd mentioned before the DQ ratings. These are based on 1 to 10, and Abdullah has very high, probably the highest in the game, right? These four. This 7.6, that's the double DQ rating. Most guys are probably a 5.3 or a 6.4, maybe a 7.5. The 7 here is his illegal pin rating. That's based out of 1 to 10. That means he might grab his opponent's trunks, he might use the ropes, might take advantage of a quick count by the referee. So 7, typical for a heel. Some of your craftier heels like Harley Race, Ric Flair will actually have a 10 for that rating. Final thing on this screen is the counters. You'll see everything here, the 15, 15, 10, 28, 28. These are all based out of 40. Now, the 15 is actually kind of low, but the 28, 28, 30, and 24, they're high because of Abdullah's girth. When we look at CM Punk, you'll see how much lower his are. The second rating is his ability to counter specialty moves, which will be probably the last thing we look at here. The highest is a AA, the lowest is a C. You'll notice Abdullah has a lot of AAs. That means he's very good at countering specialty moves, mainly again because of his girth. Other wrestlers who have AAs, like a Ricky Steamboat, a Jack Briscoe, The Rock, they have a AA not so much based on size, but their ability to counter. So these are very good counters for Abdullah. So what I want to show you here again, just real quick, is when you look at this card, you look at the DQ and outside ring, how high they are, but you'll notice he only has 2 suplex numbers, 1 ropes number, 1 pile driver, no pinholds, 1 submission. These are very, very low, especially the pin, submission, and ropes. He does have 6 body slam numbers, but his main thing he's going to do is just hammer on you and kick the crap out of you. You'll also notice the kicks. It's 1 to 37, which is really good for his control, but his attempted pin, it's only 38, 39, or 40. That tells you that he just kicks you to wear you down. He's not really going for, he's not going to get pins out of those. Again, if we look at the legal hammering, every wrestler is going to be different. It's these here, this is what makes a wrestler's rating and gets his unique style. It tells you what moves he likes to do. And again, every wrestler is different. Ric Flair, Wahoo McDaniel have a ton of chop numbers. Somebody like Lesnar or Mark Henry, lots of power moves. Certain wrestlers like to use the leg drop. Now, just because you have only a number or 2 doesn't mean that you might not see these on the specialty, which we're just about to get to. Let's go to the illegal real quick. Again, you'll notice the choking, biting. Again, I bring out the biting because usually guys only have 1 number. He has 4. Some might have 2. The throat chops is very high. That's 9 numbers. So let's move to specialty. Remember how I pointed out the 37 to 40 on both legal and illegal? That means if you turn a 00 to 59, excuse me, and it's either illegal or illegal, when you check the 1 to 40 number in either case, if it's 37, 38, 39, or 40, Abdullah is going to do a attempt specialty move. So let's go over to a specialty move. First one is maims with fork, karate thrust to throat, clothesline, butcher's axe elbow drop, and then a straight foreign object. Typically, the straight foreign object is going to lead to a pin attempt. You'll notice here he has 20 numbers for the fork, 12 numbers for the karate thrust, 11 for the clothesline, but his main one is basically 49 or 50 numbers, the butcher's axe elbow drop. And what that is the guy'd be on the mat and Abdullah would run across the ring. He did this kind of neat thing where he'd kind of slap his arm kind of as he jumped up high in the air, and he'd come down with a vicious elbow across his opponent's chest. And that was his main finisher. Now, when we were looking at some other holds, the legal and the illegal, we were looking at the control ratings, and here his control rating is a 39 out of 40. For a karate thrust, it's 37, clothesline 37, his elbow drop 38, and a foreign object 39. Most of the time you'll see high ratings when you go to a wrestler's specialty moves. His are very high. The second number is how often he'll go for the pin. Here, he only can turn, he has to turn a 39 or higher to get a pin. So basically when he uses a fork, he's just using it to take, to inflict damage, because you'll see the minus 16. When he does the karate thrust, if it's 14 or higher, he gets to go for the pin. Clothesline 7 or higher, but look at here. The butcher axe elbow drop 3 through 40. So basically 38 out of 40 times he's going to get a pin his opponent, or attempt, I'm sorry. If a 1 or a 2 comes up, that would to me mean that either when he landed it, they were too close to the ropes, or maybe Abdullah hurt himself a little bit and he couldn't go for the pin. Foreign object, it's a 2 to 40, so basically 39 out of 40 numbers. Here's the stamina off for each move. The foreign object comes off a foreign object chart, so that will tell you the stamina. The HMs here, he has all HMs. That means it's a hammering hold. And remember how I told you here on the control where everybody has an AA, B, or so forth? For Abdullah, he has an AA, an A, an A, an A, which means that you compare this AA with his opponent's counter. And it's a little cross-reference, and the computer will add a few extra numbers to his opponent's specialty counter based on each wrestler's AA, A, or B rating. The numbers here, the 2-1, the 9-5, 6-5, 14-11, notice they're all zeros. If the move lands, these are the numbers that would be added to his opponent's pin rating. So let's say he landed as 14-11. That means against CM Punk, you would add 14 and 11, so it would go to 39-31. But remember, every time that CM Punk gets tired, he gets to the 69, his pin ratings go up 5 for the first 2. So after he's tired 2 or 3 times, he very easily could have a pin rating of 40 out of 40, 40 out of 40, and say 15 out of 40. The stamina rating I told you earlier, I'll show you Abdullah's. He has a 6. I told you how that gets added to his pin rating. That 6 is also used to subtract 6 from whatever Abdullah's counters are to his opponent's specialty moves. That's why stamina is so important in the game. These two figures here really dictate, where your pin rating goes and how successful you're going to be to counter your opponent's moves. So I think I'm going to close this video. I went way too long, but it was kind of fun, and there's a lot to show you here. One thing we have done, we haven't added very many because it takes a lot of work, is a biography, and we actually have a lot for Abdullah. Talks about, you can just kind of read the screen here. If you want to read it close, you can hit pause here, and I'll stop talking, and then you can see it. But we're trying to get them added for wrestlers. It's just a lot of work, but this first sentence says it best. It has been said that history is written in blood. Those are apt words for the wild men that terrorized opponents, officials, and fans all over North America and the world. So anyway, a lot of information. I believe Don did this biography and done very well. So we're going to exit out of this. So that kind of shows you a little bit about the card. When I do this next video, I'm going to focus on CM Punk. I won't have to take as much time, I hope. And then it will kind of compare both wrestlers. So appreciate you joining in on this long video. Hope it helped out a little bit in analyzing a wrestler's card. And I look forward to more videos. And the next one I do will be with CM Punk. Thanks, everybody, and have yourselves a great evening.